Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States.
Canada's Prime Minister and Donald Trump talk tariffs.
Tonight, could there be toned-down tensions in the trade war? Good evening. This is a significant development in the ongoing battle over tariffs. Potential signs of progress.
Mark Carney, in his role as Prime Minister, spoke over the phone with the U.S. president. It was the first conversation between the two leaders, and both say it was constructive. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with the details. Siobhan.
Well, it has not been a great few months for our relationship with the United States, with Donald Trump talking about absorbing our country, becoming the 51st state, referring to our former prime minister as a governor. But today felt different. With spring in full bloom in Washington, D.C., there are signs of thaw in the turned frosty relationship between Canada and the U.S.
We had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock.
Prime Minister Mark Carney describes that call as productive, constructive.
We agreed to begin comprehensive negotiations about a new economic and security relationship between our two sovereign countries immediately following the federal election.
Carney says he'll be campaigning hard over the next month to earn a place in those negotiations. Next week's auto and reciprocal tariffs are not off the table for Donald Trump, but his tone markedly softened.
We have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, because, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada.
Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow spent her morning speaking to American TV viewers about the damage tariffs can do.
Grocery price going to go up. Yeah. Housing price going to go up. We are not going to allow American companies to bid on our contracts anymore.
Chow was in the U.S. Capitol meeting with mayors from across North America to deliver a shared message.
Let us end this trade war.
Municipal leaders talked about how their residents are suffering under a cloud of tariff uncertainty.
Businesses can't forecast. They can't forecast payroll, supply needs, etc.
Determined to keep up the pressure for the good of all North American partners.
When you have Republicans and Democrats, when you have Canada, when you have the U.S. and you have Mexico all standing together, I think that's extremely powerful.
Mayor Chow says this wasn't all doom and gloom.
We remain hopeful that our voices will be heard.
And partnerships can be restored. During the election period, Mark Carney says both Canada and the U.S. have agreed to step up their negotiations to deal with more immediate trade discussions. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. We have breaking news from the courts tonight. A judge has ruled 10 safe consumption sites across the province that were slated to close in a matter of days can stay open until a charter challenge can be heard. The injunction was granted today in response to a lawsuit launched in December by the neighborhood group which runs the Kensington Market overdose prevention site. It argued consumption sites are part of the solution to the ongoing drug crisis. The province introduced new rules banning the sites within 200 meters of schools and daycares, meaning 10 sites were slated to close by the end of the month. 9 of those consumption sites are being converted to homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs. And a spokesperson for the health minister released a statement writing, "Our priority is to protect children and families from violent crime and dangerous public drug use occurring at drug injection sites located near schools and daycares. The transition of the 9 drug injection sites to homelessness, addiction, and recovery treatment hubs will proceed as planned on April 1st. Provincial funding for heart hubs cannot be used for drug injection services and will be contingent on the organization not seeking to continue those services." A timeline for the charter challenge has not been announced. This is a developing story. We'll have reaction and implications of the decision online and tonight at 11:30.
Also tonight, ejected from the Jays home opener for wearing a patriotic hat. A Blue Jays fan who says he was humiliated for supporting his country gets an apology and a phone call of support from the premier. But first, we turn to the search for a group of suspects in a brazen and terrifying home invasion in Vaughan.
Masked vandals breaking into a home. The latest example, police say, in a disturbing escalation in auto thefts. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live with the story. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. York Regional Police say the homeowners in this incident were very shaken up, but thankfully no one was injured in Thursday morning's break-in. Video taken at 2:15 a.m. by a home's multiple security cameras shows a group of 4 men slowly approaching a house, a group of men who are masked, hooded and gloved.
Hi, you are currently being recorded.
Despite the security system announcing itself, the men aren't deterred, taking turns trying to kick the home's door in. Ultimately, they use a hammer to smash a glass panel out of the door, all 4 men eventually making their way into the home. You'll note, the third man is also carrying a handgun.
After the suspects entered the home, they did confront the homeowners and they did make demands for car keys. Now, we're very concerned about this, obviously, because you can see in the video there are no cars that are parked in the driveway, which suggests that there's some level of forethought that they knew there were high-end vehicles that would be parked in the garage.
The would-be thieves weren't able to locate any of the keys and weren't able to steal any cars. They were seen fleeing shortly thereafter in a dark-colored sedan. Still, that does little to reassure residents in the Dufferin and Teston Road area of Vaughan.
I don't even know what you do anymore. Like, what's the option? You let them in your house, give them the car keys, leave them on the front porch. Like, there's just no solution anymore. It's just really scary.
I think everybody has it in the back of their heads, but I think everybody's a little worried.
It wasn't my house, thank God, and hopefully they never show up at my house, or else we might have to answer our own way.
York Regional Police say that traditional car thefts are down more than 30% over the last 6 months, but home invasions, whether they be for cars or valuables, are up. And while homeowners may feel helpless, there are steps they can take, including installing security systems and surveillance cameras.
You can invest in things like coatings for windows that would stop a hammer from smashing it. Very similarly, like we've seen a lot of these jewelry stores installing now, where we've also had a lot of success in terms of thieves being deterred.
No one was injured in this break-in. Investigators are now looking for 5 suspects. Now, police say residents can keep an eye out for their neighborhoods by reporting things like cars driving by a home and taking pictures, for example. And, of course, if you have any information about this case at all, you're asked to contact York Regional Police. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. And we want to warn you about some graphic video. York Regional Police have made an arrest after shots were fired at a home in Georgina last fall. Police released this dramatic video from the scene on the night of November 3rd. They say bullet holes were found in the upstairs bedroom of the home on Danny Wheeler Boulevard, but nobody was hurt. Yesterday, 21-year-old Vishal Suthagar of Toronto was taken into custody for firearm charges and failure to comply with a release order. Investigators say they're still looking to find and arrest at least one other suspect in this case.
A Toronto Hydro employee is dead after a workplace incident early this morning at a waterfront condo. Emergency crews were called to the Ree Street and Queens Quay area around 1:50 a.m. Toronto Fire says a hydro worker in his 30s was in a vault, and it's believed he suffered an electric shock. He was removed with life-threatening injuries and would later die in hospital. Electricity was shut off in the area into the afternoon. Toronto Hydro says it was carrying out planned maintenance in the vault, and it's deeply saddened about the loss of life. The Ministry of Labour is investigating what took place.
And firefighters remained on the scene of a 2-alarm house fire in Brampton this afternoon. They put the word out a bit after 1 o'clock as they tackled the flames. This happened on Pennsylvania Avenue, not far from Beaconsfield and Mavis Road. No injuries were reported, but local emergency services advise avoiding the area.
Still ahead, a major earthquake rocks Myanmar and Thailand. The rising death toll, complex rescue efforts, and response here at home.
But first, we are watching the weather closely tonight. Freezing rain on the way and even more expected later this weekend. A special weather statement is in effect tonight. As we take a live look outside, the conditions will likely impact your weekend plans. At this stage, it is looking soggy right now. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look, and I see all that green behind you, and it checks out with what we're seeing on those live cameras.
Yes, here it comes, Michelle, and we want to pay close attention to the radar imagery to see any pink or purple pop up because that would be indicative of freezing rain or ice pellets, both a real possibility through this weekend and even through tonight. We're starting to see some of that around Lake Simcoe, Barrie, over toward Orillia, some snow in eastern sections of the province and some thunderstorms across the southwest. We are getting light rain this hour at Pearson Airport. Now, as mentioned, Toronto is under a special weather statement, but we've got freezing rain warnings, we've got rainfall warnings, snowfall warnings to the north, a patchwork of weather advisories. Look at the temperature difference. It is 16 degrees in Windsor. It is 2 in Toronto. Anyone near freezing through these evening hours at risk of seeing that freezing rain. And that's where we will fall overnight tonight. This is just the beginning. This evening, we're going to talk about the risk of freezing rain for your Saturday and for your Sunday coming up. For now, though, Nathan, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. It's not exactly ideal cycling weather, but protesters are out braving the elements tonight.
It's in an effort to pressure the Ford government to put the brakes on a plan to remove bike lanes in the city. CTV's Scott Lightfoot is live near Bloor and Spadina with the details. Scott, you there?
Yeah, Michelle, we're here. It is raining. We are just off the corner of Bloor and Spadina. As you mentioned, not a beautiful night for a bike ride, but this is not a joyride. This is a protest ride they're getting set to do here. I'm going to show you. They're just getting started here behind me. They're expecting hundreds of cyclists here to protest Bill 212. That is the bill that will allow the provincial government to remove the bike lanes on Bloor, Yonge, and University Ave. Of course, this is not the first. There have been many protests against this bill. There have been legal challenges against this bill as well. So far, none of it seems to have worked. There is still a charter challenge planned for mid-April, but at this point, some of the cyclists here say they feel all they have that they can really do here is protest, and that's why they are here to protest yet again tonight. Here's what one of the organizers told us.
Well, you know, a lot of Canadians will spend thousands of dollars to fly to Europe, to the Netherlands, to Denmark, and they'll love how quiet it is, how peaceful it is, how they can walk and bike everywhere. But they don't imagine that here. But the thing is, societies they weren't just born that way. They didn't just come out of nowhere. They got that way through massive protests and civil disruption. Doug Ford is showing us that when we elect a mayor who's pro-bike, he's going to override it. So it seems like our only choice left is protest. So that's what we're here for today.
So at this point, what we know from ministry emails that came out during those court challenges, the plan is to start removing the bike lanes possibly around April 27th. Again, there's a charter challenge planned for the middle of April. As for this protest, they plan to hit the streets about 6:30. They're going to do some speeches. At this point, they don't really know what route they're going to take. Depends on how many people turn out to join the protest. Reporting live near Bloor and Spadina, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. Toronto City Councillors have voted to give themselves a raise. Members of council have not received a pay increase since 2006, when it was set at around $137,000 a year. But in the past, they have received cost of living increases. A staff report recommended a $33,000 salary increase, noting the unique demands placed on the elected officials. The 24% hike was approved yesterday by a vote of 15-8. Mayor Olivia Chow's pay is not impacted, but she called the figure a bit steep. She added she thinks third parties should make decisions on salary increases.
And the province is out with its 2024 Sunshine List. That's the annual disclosure of public sector employees with salaries of more than $100,000. The list includes a record of more than 337,000 names, up from around 300,000 last year. The top earner was now former president and CEO of Ontario Power Generation, Ken Hartwick, with a salary of more than $2 million. Our web team has a deeper dive on the Sunshine List data, and you'll find it at CTV News Toronto.ca. We heard earlier Mark Carney spoke to Donald Trump for the first time today as Prime Minister.
There's a development on the other federal party leaders that addressed directly on the campaign trail this afternoon. CTV's Jeremy Sharon reports.
I was glad to learn that the President and Prime Minister spoke today, and like all Canadians, I hope they had a successful talk, and I look forward to hearing about the results that they achieved.
I want this call to be successful. Like I said before, there are many things I'm going to attack Mark Carney on when it comes to domestic policy, but when it comes to our fight against Donald Trump, we all need to be united.
While on the campaign front, from a lumber yard in Nanaimo, British Columbia, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre promised to be tougher on crime.
A new Conservative government will impose life sentences for the most serious cases of fentanyl, distribution, gun smuggling, and human trafficking.
Oh, that's so cool. Tell her I say hi too.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was focused on housing during a stop in Toronto today, restating his commitment on affordable housing.
We are going to ban large corporate landlords from engaging in the predatory practice of buying up affordable homes.
Jeremy Sharon, CTV News, Ottawa.
Search and rescue efforts are underway following a powerful earthquake that struck Myanmar and Thailand.
More than 150 people are confirmed to have died after the magnitude 7.7 quake hit today. At least 144 of the casualties occurred in Myanmar, where there was extensive damage in 2 hard-hit cities. More than 730 other people were injured. Officials fear it may be weeks before they know the full extent of the destruction. The state newspaper says 5 cities and towns had building collapses, and 2 bridges also fell, including one on a key highway. In neighboring Thailand, 10 people were killed, 16 injured, and 101 are missing from 3 construction sites, including a high-rise under construction that collapsed.
People were still sort of driving very slowly, confused. Everyone just didn't really know what they were doing. Nobody was driving orderly. And then suddenly we just seen the collapse of the building right in front of us on the left-hand side, which is an area called Jatuljak, near very famous Jatuljak markets. It was a building which is currently under construction, and the whole thing just collapsed.
The Bangkok area is prone to earthquakes, but they're usually not so powerful and rarely are felt in the capital. Myanmar is in an active earthquake belt, but many of them happen in sparsely populated areas, not cities like those affected today. The devastation has prompted action from right here at home, from aid organizations to community groups who are stepping up to help. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
These are actually the photos I got from one of our monks. It's quite extensive.
Coco G looks at photos of the devastation. Since the powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit, the GTA's Myanmar community has been sharing images of toppled temples, homes, bridges, and palaces.
When I woke up this morning, I found several messages on my phone about this earthquake in Myanmar. And it actually took place, it struck Mandalay, close to Mandalay, which is the epicenter of the earthquake. And it's quite a big magnitude, so I was shocked, of course.
G moved to Canada 26 years ago. He says there are hundreds of Myanmar families connected to his temple, and one of the monks there is from the hard-hit region.
This is very famous pagoda in Mandalay.
G is concerned about help getting to all the people who need it, as an airport and roads were damaged. Armed groups have also been fighting the military, which has been in power since a coup 4 years ago.
Inside it is a point-of-use water purification unit, a hygiene kit, and a solar light.
Global Medic is mobilizing its offer to help up to 12,000 people in Myanmar and Thailand. Having worked in Myanmar before, it says it has teams ready to fly drones so the country can understand the damage and make informed decisions, send emergency kits, and dispatch groups with mechanical units to ensure people get access to clean drinking water.
It's a race against time, right? Only 2-3 days. Only 3 days you can stand without having water before you're so dehydrated that your system shuts down.
But this is probably a very big one.
G says the Myanmar community here is planning to organize donations.
So it will be very tough for them to rebuild because, as you know, the country itself is in turmoil at the moment because of the situation there. And on top of that, now this natural disaster happened.
Aid organizations worry the full scope of the destruction is still emerging and the humanitarian needs will be significant. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Canada's most wanted fugitive has been arrested after more than a year at large. Dave Turmel was arrested in Rome yesterday after local police were tipped off about his presence there. Police burst into a home where the 29-year-old fugitive gave himself up. He's alleged to be the leader of a Quebec street gang. Turmel was sought by police in Quebec City as part of an operation to counter an increase in violence linked to drug trafficking.
In the UK, King Charles smiled and waves to crowds today, a day after a visit to hospital following side effects from his cancer treatment. The royal motorcade was spotted leaving Clarence House this morning. The monarch is heading out of London for the weekend. The palace says the king's side effects prompted doctors to bring him in for observation yesterday and cancel some events as a precaution.
The moon will appear to take a bite out of the sun tomorrow during a partial solar eclipse. The celestial event happens when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, but they are not completely aligned. The eclipse will be seen at sunrise in some Ontario communities, mostly in the eastern part of the province. However, it will not be fully visible in the GTA. Unlike a total solar eclipse, there will be no totality, so proper eye protection must be worn at all times you're still looking at the sun.
Back here at home, a Blue Jays fan is speaking out after he was booted from the home opener yesterday.
Thrown out, he says, for wearing a patriotic hat. The teams apologized, and even the premiers cried foul over the incident. CTV's Mike Walker has the story.
I love the message. I love the fact that it's all Canadian.
A patriotic slogan on a hat that resonates with Dan Begley.
Just to support Canada and get the message out. We're under attack. We're being threatened. Trump doesn't kid around.
But the longtime Jays fan was caught by surprise when he was escorted out of the Rogers Centre for wearing his Canada is not for sale hat at the Jays home opener.
An usher approached me. She apologized but said that they have rules against political statements, and my hat violates their rules against political statements, and that I either had to remove the hat or turn it around backwards, or I'd have to leave.
He says that warning came during the opening ceremonies. He chose to keep the hat on and was removed in the middle of the first inning.
How'd that make you feel? Humiliated. Just that was done to me when I'm there supporting my country. Nothing offensive about this hat.
And he didn't leave quietly.
He was telling everyone that he's being kicked out for his hat.
Claire Formosa was at the game with Begley and couldn't believe what she witnessed.
I think it could have been handled a little bit better.
For its part, the Blue Jays say they have apologized, acknowledging that our staff made a mistake and we have addressed the issue to ensure it does not happen again, adding the fan is invited back to the ballpark.
I think it was a very bad judgment call by somebody.
It's the same hat made popular by Premier Doug Ford in the middle of the ongoing trade war with the U.S.
And you just wear that hat, be proud Canadian, and I'm so proud of you. Never take that hat off.
He left Begley this message of support.
It was awful, and just the support has been unbelievable.
Support that also includes the Ottawa company behind the Canada is not for sale merchandise.
This is a statement that's bringing Canadians together.
They are providing Begley tickets to Monday night's game.
To see a Canadian singled out and made to feel like he was doing something inappropriate or untoward, I couldn't believe it.
Begley says the Jays have assured him he can still wear his patriotic hat inside the dome, and he plans to do so on Monday when the Jays host Washington.
Proudly having my hat on and not feeling threatened.
Mike Walker, CTV News, Toronto.
Coming up, Canadians canceled trips to the U.S. Bookings plunge, and plans for teams to compete below the border are getting axed. You'll hear from a roller derby league opting to cancel their U.S. games.
A prolonged period of freezing rain is in the forecast, and I'm especially concerned about the areas that you see here in purple. Parry Sound to Peterborough over toward Prince Edward County and beyond. We are talking ice storm criteria, enough to bring down power lines and likely large tree branches. You'll notice the forecast daytime highs in that part of the province near freezing. Look at southwestern Ontario, 17 degrees in London. Windsor could climb into the 20s, and we are right in the middle here in Toronto. Cold enough for us to experience some freezing rain, and maybe just warm enough that it falls as plain rain. It's a tricky forecast, but we're going to take you through what you need to know for the weekend coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
New data shows the demand for flights between Canada and the U.S. has plunged amid trade tension. The official airline guide says bookings between Canada and America for the upcoming summer season have dropped more than 70% compared to last year. That's prompted a number of airlines to cut seats and scale back routes. Carriers have slashed more than 320,000 seats from cross-border trips through the end of October.
Meanwhile, a BC roller derby team has canceled all of their games in the United States.
Many of the skaters are part of the LGBTQ2S+ community and say they don't feel safe crossing the border. CTV's Anna McMillan has the story.
Noxadowski has donned her skates in the States on several occasions. It's not something she'll be doing again anytime soon.
If it's not safe for one of us to go, it's not safe for any of us to go.
She's part of the Eves of Destruction, a roller derby league in Victoria, which has canceled its upcoming games in the U.S.
There's people in the team who would be at risk traveling through the border.
Sadowski estimates about 2/3 of people in the league are part of the 2S LGBTQ+ community.
Our governing body that we play under has explicit rules about trans athletes, including them rather than excluding them.
Some athletes have a gender designation of X on their passports, which the U.S. has stopped issuing to its citizens.
There's a chance that people could just be turned away.
Their fear is linked to recent detainments and executive orders to ban trans athletes from competing in women's sports and to recognize only 2 genders in the states.
It seems there is a bit of a chilling effect with all the uncertainties between the tariffs and immigration restrictions that has pushed clients toward thinking about maybe not coming down to the United States.
Several countries have issued warnings for those traveling to the U.S. Denmark and Finland are advising trans citizens to contact the U.S. Embassy in their respective countries for advice.
The guidance that seems to be coming out of the U.S. government right now is to declare your gender at birth.
The advice from that U.S. immigration attorney:
brief answers, answer directly, try not to be evasive.
For Sadowski, there's a reason to feel hopeful.
Despite everything, I believe in people. You know, the vast majority of people, when times get tough, they look to each other.
She says people can show their support by coming to their games here at home. Anna McMillan, CTV News, Esquimalt.
Roller skating, cycling, driving, anything on wheels a concern this weekend?
Definitely. Oh, goodness. I mean, Lindsay, we were talking earlier about it could be just rain, and that would be, you know, it'd just be a spring day, but it's that potential for it to get really slick and the ice buildup.
Yes, and so that's probably the worst case scenario if we get all freezing rain, a prolonged event in some areas. But here's the thing, if it ends up being plain rain, as we're now calling it, some areas are going to get some very heavy amounts of just rain as well. So that increases the flood potential. We've had some rainfall warnings issued just in the last little while here. And for northern parts of Ontario, eastern sections of the province too, it's going to be snow. In fact, it was snow, the first round of this active weather that we're getting, bringing heavy amounts of snow to parts of the prairies the last couple of days. This was Edmonton yesterday, parts of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, city of Winnipeg getting a dusting of snow as a result of this big system. Here's what it looks like on the satellite and radar imagery. It is bringing snow now to northern parts of Ontario and right along the Quebec border. For us in the lower Great Lakes, we are getting some rain. There's also been some thunder and lightning across southwestern Ontario, moving over Lake Huron too. And yeah, we're starting to see some of that mixing happening, especially around Lake Simcoe and now pushing into the Kawarthas, keeping an eye on Muskoka as well. So we know that rain is forecast this weekend. The concern is freezing rain, and that's where there's a layer of cold air right at the surface. So the precip looks like rain, but it freezes on contact. That includes tree branches and roadways. We might also get some ice pellets, and that's where the temperature is just a little bit colder. Ice pellets, well, you may have to shovel those away, but might not be quite as dangerous as the freezing rain. So rainfall warning in green. This also includes Barrie over toward the Gravenhurst area and Port Carling, 40 to 60 millimeters of rain. But again, some of that could end up being freezing rain, 10 to 20 millimeters expected for areas within this warning area. York region, Durham region, also part of that freezing rain warning. And here's the thing, though, some areas are going to see even more than that. Let's set the forecast radar in motion. There's overnight. There's where that really gets going for eastern sections of the province. Waking up tomorrow morning, some showers, maybe some freezing rain. Notice the pink, how close it gets to the GTA, especially, though, York and Durham region. And then later on Saturday night, late evening, late night, and overnight, we have another elevated risk of some freezing rain here locally. First thing Sunday morning, just beware as well, especially the further you go away from downtown and the lakeshore, might encounter some freezing rain. And then as the temperature rises Sunday, it will be plain rain. Here's a look at how much ice. Again, this is easily enough to cause an ice storm. So we're going to see if this plays out this way. As for the rainfall amounts, there's the areas included now in the rainfall warning. We could pick up 20 millimeters of rain in the city of Toronto, and then maybe 15 to 20 centimeters of snow expected for places like Huntsville and Bancroft. Tonight's low in Toronto, 0. Again, that has increased our risk of freezing rain. If you do have to be out on the roads tonight, just be very careful. It's a good weekend to maybe postpone non-essential travel if you can. Unsettled through Sunday. Monday, our temperature up around 15 degrees, and then the sun comes back out just in time to start the month of April. But safe to say, March is going out like a lion. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Also tonight, a big breakthrough in a small package, a new device that makes life a little easier for people living with diabetes. A patch instead of a painful prick.
The Princess Margaret Home Lottery Early Bird Prize deadline is tonight. Get your tickets before midnight. Joining me now is Ramona Oss from the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation, and I love this prize. It's beautiful.
I know. The ever-favorite Muskoka Lakefront Cottage total prize package for tonight is valued at $2.8 million, includes this lakefront cottage plus $50,000 cash. You want to get in by midnight to be eligible for this prize, but if you do, you're also eligible for more than 17,000 other prizes, including, G, you want to hear some more?
Yes.
Okay, our biggest ever grand prize valued at $9 million includes a stunning Oakville show home and $500,000 cash. Let's not forget about the Georgian Bay grand prize valued at $2.6 million plus $50,000 cash. We've got vacations, cars, and of course, our ever favorite add-ons.
Woo, my favorite.
Yeah, I know. Our current jackpot is at $5.4 million. That means the winner right now would take home $2.7 million, but the pot is continuing to grow thanks to all of you. And if you want even more chances to win, add on a cash calendar. We give away cash every day for 100 days, including 2 grand prizes of $200,000 each, and our all-new Wanderlust, where you can win an incredible bucket list vacation or take $75,000 cash. And G, tickets are going fast.
Yes.
Over 75% sold. You want to avoid disappointment. Get in for this early bird prize. And I don't know, I think this is also, I know you love the 50-50,
I do. It's
but
my
wouldn't you say
favorite.
this cottage, it's pretty spectacular.
It is spectacular, but you can only have a chance to win this cottage if you get your tickets before midnight. And what's so cool is that ticket is good for all the other 17,000 other incredible prizes.
That's right. And know that your ticket supports life-saving cancer research at the Princess Margaret, one of the top cancer research centers in the world. So you're making a real difference, not only in cancer patients here in Ontario, but cancer patients globally.
Get your tickets now, princessmargaretlotto.com.
A tiny patch developed by a team at the University of Waterloo could be a game changer for people living with diabetes.
The researchers say it's painless and meant to replace needle pricks, and as CTV's Spencer Turcott reports, could provide vital monitoring around the clock.
This is our device called wearable optimizer.
Sometimes big breakthroughs come in small packages.
It's actually very simple. We just lift the skin up briefly and applying the side of the needle down.
It sounds simple, but the research behind it is quite complex. The team at the University of Waterloo is closer to making life more comfortable for diabetes patients.
They monitor their blood glucose level is usually using the finger prick glucometer.
A process that can be invasive. Continuous glucose monitors in the form of wearable patches that penetrate the skin have been developed before. But what's on the market now needs some work, according to this team of bright minds.
So they're using metallic and solid needles, which are long, like usually 4 millimeters, and they would go into the skin. So these are painful because they can touch the nerves.
Instead, they've developed new hydrogen microneedle patches. They're less than 1 millimeter, so when they penetrate the skin, they don't touch any nerves, allowing patients to apply the patches themselves.
The interstitial fluid is another body fluid that we have beneath the skin. It has a good resemblance to blood, especially for biomarkers like ketones and glucose and lactate as well.
The added comfort allows the patches to be worn constantly, which helps reduce the risk of serious conditions.
So if the ketone levels go up, there is a condition, it's called diabetic ketoacidosis. And again, there is no continuous ketone sensor yet available.
The idea is to have the data transferred through the patch and chip to users' smartphones, or have it uploaded to the cloud for physicians.
We're looking for a lifetime of probably 10 to 14 days for them. The disposable part is the part that would cost around $1. So the reusable parts would be probably around $100 each, but that's a one-time cost, basically.
Whereas researchers say current continuous monitoring patches cost upwards of $100 each, so far more expensive. This new and improved patch can be used for more than just diabetes patients too, thanks to help from McMaster University.
Monitoring of lactates in athletes. So athletes, they need to monitor their lactates to optimize their performance. But currently, the way that they are doing, they need to stop their exercise, prick their fingers.
To bring the technology to the market, the team recently launched a spin-off company called Aptech Health, a move they hope will change healthcare forever. Spencer Turcott, CTV News, Waterloo.
Work is officially underway to build a new state-of-the-art hospital in Brampton. Premier Doug Ford was on hand to help break ground for the new Peel Memorial Hospital. The facility will see the expansion of the Peel Memorial Center for Integrated Health and Wellness to add new and enhanced services. These services include a 24-hour emergency department and a new multi-story patient tower with up to 250 inpatient beds.
The challenges faced by caregivers are in the spotlight due to a recent social media post by actor Bruce Willis's wife. As CTV's Pauline Chan reports, it comes ahead of National Caregiving Day next Tuesday.
There is some learning in this story in regards to this tragic passing of Mr. and Mrs. Hackman.
A recent social media post by Emma Hemming Willis, wife of Bruce Willis, talks about the toll that caregiving takes on a person. She is caring for her husband as he deals with frontotemporal dementia. Gene Hackman, who also had dementia, was being cared for by his wife, Betsy Arakawa, when she died suddenly of a virus and he passed away shortly after.
Caregivers need care too, and that they are vital, and that it is so important that we show up for them so that they can continue to show up for their person.
Hi, Amy. Hey. Good to see you.
Amy Kupal has been a caregiver since childhood.
I was what is called a young caregiver for my brother who had cerebral palsy. And then I was a caregiver for my mom through her cancer and palliative care journey with my dad and my sister. And now I'm a caregiver for my dad.
She echoes Hemming Willis's call for support for caregivers.
I will make sure that his appointments are booked, his medical appointments are booked. We go to most of those appointments together.
It's physically and mentally exhausting. Amy sees her dad several times a week, but she also has 2 young boys at home to look after. Symptoms of caregiver burnout can include sleep problems, feeling overwhelmed or exhausted, negative emotions like anger, appetite changes, use of alcohol or medications, and social withdrawal.
We have lots of free programs for caregivers new to their caregiving journey or at any stage.
The Ontario Caregiver Organization offers peer support and expert advice at ontariocaregiver.ca. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Disney's latest fairy tale remake is expected to lead a sleepy weekend at the box office.
This was my father's kingdom, a place of fairness.
Hollywood insiders had projected Snow White would bring in about $20 million U.S. in its sophomore weekend. Later in the day, Deadline reported slightly lower figures amid solid ticket sales for Amazon MGM's action film A Working Man, starring Jason Statham. This comes as another high-profile adaptation schedules its own move to the big screen.
You are our final hope.
And Nintendo scheduled a release date for its long-awaited Legend of Zelda movie. It's been nearly a year and a half since it was announced the popular video game series would be turned into a live-action film. Today, Nintendo confirmed the movie will be out in March 2027.
After the break, taking transit this weekend, take note, the Spadina streetcar will be back on the tracks, but work is starting on other routes, while some areas will see a new increase in service. We'll get you caught up.
Agreed to begin comprehensive negotiations about a new economic and security relationship.
We had a very good conversation.
Updating our top stories, Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump spoke this morning, both indicating a softer tone in ongoing trade tensions. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow and other local leaders were in Washington, D.C., highlighting the potential impact of auto tariffs and other levies Trump has set for next week.
Even if they're allowed lawfully to continue, where's the money going to come from?
A judge has ruled supervised consumption sites across the province that were slated to close in a matter of days should be allowed to stay open. The injunction was granted until a charter challenge can be heard of the Ford government's plans to convert the facilities into homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, or HART hubs. The province says the process will move forward.
They did confront the homeowners, and they did make demands for car keys.
And York Regional Police have shared video of a home invasion. It happened early yesterday morning in Vaughan. Investigators say armed suspects forced their way into a home near Athabasca Drive in Hunterwood Chase and demanded car keys. They didn't succeed and eventually fled in a waiting dark-colored car. The search is now on for 5 suspects.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
GDP numbers are in for the month of January, showing growth of 0.4%. B&M Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has the details in tonight's business report.
Real GDP was up in January month over month, but it looks like the economy will hit a wall in February. Statistics Canada shows a boom for oil, gas, and mining right at the start of the year. That lines up with a jump in exports to the U.S., and this could be explained by the tariff threat, with producers trying to get their products across the border before the trade war began. Now, the tariffs are also the reason why growth is expected to stall in February. A pretty dismal day on the North American markets. The Canadian dollar ended the day down at 69.84. West Texas Intermediate down half a cent to 69.36. Our fix on Western Canadian Select has it up, hitting 59.33. But the TSX took a big hit, dropping more than 400 points today. Those are your business headlines. In the B&N Bloomberg newsroom, I'm Marilla Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
After months of replacement bus service, streetcars are coming back to Spadina Avenue this weekend. The TTC's been carrying out track work and modernization of the downtown route since June. But the transit agency says the 510 Spadina will restart streetcar service on Sunday. That same day, the 509 Harbourfront will stop running to Union Station. Riders heading towards Exhibition will have to take the 510 and transfer to a replacement bus at Queens Quay.
Also this weekend, a closure for track work means trains won't be running on part of Line 2. Shuttle buses will operate between Victoria Park and Kennedy starting late tonight through Monday morning. The TTC says Line 4, Shepherd, and several bus and streetcar routes will also see increased service starting Sunday.
And a heads up for GO Train customers. Metrolink says the Lakeshore West line will run normally during the day tomorrow, but some evening trains will only travel as far as Aldershot GO. On Sunday, trains won't operate to or past West Harbour GO. Crews will be carrying out signal testing on the line through Hamilton. The agency says other road users should expect increased train activity in the area.
The Toronto Raptors are going for a 3rd straight win when they return to action tonight.
And it's not like those minutes, Avaji with the 3.
Toronto's coming off a dominant 116-86 road win over the Nets on Wednesday. Tonight, they host the Charlotte Hornets, who've lost 3 games in a row. The Raptors are in Philadelphia on Sunday.
His shot scored. Tavares with the tip.
The Maple Leafs now lead the Atlantic Division by 1 point over Florida and Tampa, who are tied. Toronto came away with a point last night in San Jose. William Nylander had 2 goals. The Buds visit Los Angeles tomorrow.
Just ahead, capturing the artistic spirit of the beautiful game. The city of Toronto unveils the official poster of the 2025 FIFA World Cup.
Kickstarting preparations across the continent for next year's FIFA World Cup.
As Canada, the U.S., and Mexico prepare to welcome the global event, Toronto's unveiled its host city poster.
1, 2, 3.
The poster was designed by Toronto-based illustrator Dave Murray. The city says the poster will represent Toronto on the global stage, capturing the energy and passion of the world's most popular sport. It features a player in motion, emblazoned with a red maple leaf. Murray said the pattern of squares also represents Toronto's street grid and the idea of a quilt of communities. He also pointed out another hidden design element.
I think my favorite Easter egg in the poster is the actual placement of the ball. So you have everything else. You have this player, you have this kind of rhythmic bouncing Toronto kind of word here in the background, but the ball is actually placed over where Toronto Stadium is, and where the first World Cup game in Canada will be played. So I kind of wanted to kind of take a wink and a nod at the location where this is actually going to take place.
The new poster will be on display at tonight's Raptors game and tomorrow's Toronto FC match. What do you think?
Well,
different.
You know what? It comes to life more when he explains it, that there are all those hidden meanings in the grid. Cool. What's even cooler is that it's next year.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Quick. Okay, if you want to play outside, have any plans this weekend, you do have to factor in the weather. Get us caught up.
Yes, well, consider the fact that it is going to be pretty unsettled from now right through until the early part of next week. I want to take one more look at the radar because we are starting to see signs of some freezing rain around places like Barrie, over toward Orillia, as well as Port Perry, Uxbridge. Here's a look at what we're dealing with right now. And there it is. We've got some thunderstorm activity across the southwest, too. Lots of lightning. One more look at the watches and warnings that are in effect right now, including a freezing rain warning for York and Durham region. Waking up tomorrow morning to a temperature around 1 degree. Here's one more look at how this is all going to play out. It's a lot of rain and potentially a lot of freezing rain for some areas. There is your 7-day forecast. Stay safe this weekend, everyone, especially if you're going to be out on the roads. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Almond with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great day.